Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is Explanation of Battle Through the Heavens episode number 220 based on novel. So let's start. The furious cry of the Northern Dragon King resounded within this blood formation in a rumbling fashion. Finally, it spread into the distance. The pink flame, which appeared above Ziyang's head, swiftly spread after the Northern Dragon King's cry sounded. It transformed into a fire barrier that firmly wrapped around Ziyang. The blood fog spreading around her would emit a hissing sound and disappear upon contact with the fire barrier. Northern Dragon King, you are indeed the person causing trouble. The space beside Ziyang fluctuated after the fire barrier materialized. Immediately, two figures slowly appeared. These figures were Xiao Yan and Cai Lin, who had hurried over at full speed. It's Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang's and Kailin's sudden appearance caught the attention of those members from the Eastern Dragon Island outside of the formation. Many joyous cries quickly sounded. Soon after, some elders once again became grave. Although they were aware that Xiao Yang was also an elite Dosheng after their last meeting, the current situation was such that even an ordinary Dosheng would end up dying. The hearts of many sank slightly upon thinking of death. That fellow Huang Tian is really useless. He has only managed to delay you for such a short amount of time. The scarlet eyes of the Northern Dragon King glared at Xiao Yang while everyone was quiet. He licked the blood off the corner of his mouth as he continued with a dense smile. However, it is fine. The situation has already been decided. You coming here is merely offering me a sacrifice. Xiao Yang's expression was calm. He glanced at the Northern Dragon King and paused on the three strange faces. Given his spiritual perception, he could guess why this person's strength had increased with just a glance. He slightly frowned. This person was actually this vicious. Ziyang by the side suddenly coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood while Xiao Yang knit his brows. Her face was as pale as sheet. Blood swiftly spread from his shoulder and eroded her body. Although the Dragon Phoenix constitution was doing its best to endure, the waves of intense pain still caused Ziyang's expression grow paler. Even though you possess the Dragon Phoenix constitution, even you will feel terrible after being struck by the transforming dragon demon formation. The Northern Dragon King let out a wild laugh at the sky after seeing the Ziyang's weakened state. He had almost transformed the entire population of the Northern Dragon Island into blood. It was only possible to turn the tables by paying such a frightening price. His heart was naturally incomparably happy after forcing Ziyang into such a miserable state. Why are the both of you here? Ziyang wiped the trace of blood off the corner of her mouth. Her pale face gave one a heartache. Her somewhat dim eyes glanced at Xiao Yang and Kailin as she bitterly said, the matter this time around will not be as easily resolved as last time. This fellow has devoured the Western and Southern King as well as the flesh of many tribe members. He has vaguely reached the 6th star of the Dosheng class. A 6-star Dosheng. Although Ziyang's strength had risen quickly during these 2 years, she had yet to break through to the 5th star of the Dosheng class. With her strength, she was unable to defeat the Northern Dragon King even with her Dragon Phoenix constitution. The gap between the 2 stars was really far too great. Xiao Yang smiled at her but did not reply. His hand was gently placed on Ziyang's shoulder. The one that radiated a bloody air from it. A faint pink flame was partially visible. He, attempting to expel the transforming dragon blood chi. Do you think? The Northern Dragon King coldly laughed upon seeing Xiao Yang's actions. However, his laughter had barely sounded when he was stunned to find tendrils of the blood chi swiftly rising from Ziyang's shoulder. Finally, they vanished into nothing. Heavenly flame? A shocked expression immediately flashed across the Northern Dragon King's eyes upon seeing these tendrils disappear. Only at this moment did he discover that the heavenly flame in Xiao Yang's hand appeared a little different from what he had seen back then. Xiao Yang ignored the Northern Dragon King. He controlled the purifying demonic lotus flame and circulated it once around Ziyang's body. All of the transforming dragon blood chi within her body was swallowed and vaporized. Only then did he slowly withdraw his palm. Ziyang's face recovered a little color after the transforming dragon blood chi within her body was scattered, but she still appeared extremely weak. Moreover, her body had slowly shrank in front of Xiao Yang's and Kailin's stunned eyes. Within a short moment, she had returned to that little girl appearance from back then. I'm too weak. I can only recover in a form that saves the most amount of energy. Ziyang bitterly laughed and softly explained. Haha, this appearance is much cuter. Xiao Yang rubbed Ziyang's small head and laughed, both Kailin and you should return. Leave this to me. Ziyang was slightly startled after hearing his words. She gently clenched her teeth and said, he is very powerful. I have never tried biting off more than I can chew. Xiao Yang laughed and replied. Ziyang suddenly sensed that Xiao Yang's strength had once again surpassed her after taking in his smiling face. A joy quickly rose on her small face. Do you need any help? Kailin softly asked by the side. If that transformed Northern Dragon King really possessed a strength similar to a 6-star Dosheng, just Xiao Yang alone, Worry flashed through her eyes while she thought to herself. He has yet to truly reach the 6th star of the Doshan class. It is not impossible to beat him. Currently, there are still many members of the ancient Void Dragon tribe within this formation. You should intervene and rescue them while I hold him back. Otherwise, he will be able to devour the blood and Do-Chi of these people as he wishes. Then, his fighting strength will maintain its peak. Xiao Yang shook his head slightly while appearing quite calm. Kaylin was unable to say anything after hearing Xiao Yang's words. She immediately nodded, grabbed Zi Yang, and moved her body, flying out of the range of the blood formation in the process. They appeared in front of those elders from the Eastern Dragon Island. The elders hurriedly swarmed over upon seeing them leave the formation. Their faces were extremely anxious. If anything happened to Zi Yang, the ancient Void Dragon tribe would never unite again. The Northern Dragon King did not intervene to stop Kaylin and Zi Yang from departing. From the way he saw it, the lives of those two had merely been extended. Once he finished Xiao Yang off, he would devour everyone present. A savage smile rose on the face of the Northern Dragon King after he thought about the joy from the soaring of his strength. Your blood and flesh has a strange scent to it. It is similar to that of the Dragon Phoenix, but it appears even more delicious. The Northern Dragon King's scarlet tongue was extended. He licked the blood on his face. A special excitement quickly rose within his eyes. He made a strange statement as he stared at Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang shifted his eyes. He was naturally aware of what the Northern Dragon King was saying. There were a total of 3 types of bloodline strengths within his body. This delicious taste should originate from them. However, Xiao Yang did not reply to the perverted desire of the Northern Dragon King. He lifted his hand, and a pink flame slowly spread from his body. The frighteningly high temperature vaporized the surrounding bloody Do-Chi that was eroding him. The scarlet eyes of the Northern Dragon King focused when the extremely troublesome transforming dragon blood Do-Chi was unable to even approach Xiao Yang's body. Although his murderous desire had surged after devouring many people, he possessed a ruthless and cautious nature to begin with. Hence, he remained alert even at this moment. Your body possesses the Dragon Phoenix bloodline. Coincidentally, you can have a taste of the dragon slaying sword. The eyes of the Northern Dragon King flickered as he took a step forward. His body appeared a short distance in front of Xiao Yang with lightning-like speed. The huge blood-red sword in the Northern Dragon King's hand released a bloody stench that pounced into Xiao Yang's nose as it ruthlessly hacked toward his head. Yellow spring palm. Xiao Yang's body withdrew. He randomly threw out a yellow spring palm in the process, and the huge energy palm whistled forward. This is nothing. The Northern Dragon King laughed upon seeing this attack. The huge sword containing a bloody Do-Chi in his hand slashed down and hacked the energy palm into 2. After which, the body of the sword was swung. It unleashed 3 huge sword glows with lightning-like speed. They struck Xiao Yang like thunderbolts. The green-red bone wings on Xiao Yang's back were flapped to deal with the Northern Dragon King's sharp attack, narrowly dodging them. Before he could stabilize his body, the Northern Dragon King had once again ferociously pounced over. The attacks arrived one after another without giving him any time to catch his breath. The elders from the Eastern Dragon Island outside of the formation felt a little anxious in their hearts after seeing Xiao Yang fall into a disadvantage. If Xiao Yang were to be defeated, the Eastern Dragon Island would really suffer a great defeat. At that time, the crazy Northern Dragon King would attack again. The entire ancient Void Dragon tribe would likely be finished. Bang! Xiao Yang violently collided head-on with the Northern Dragon King amid these many anxious pairs of eyes. The blood within his body churned as he staggered dozens of steps back. He is indeed barely able to reach the 6th star of the Doshan class. A grave expression flashed across Xiao Yang's eyes as he suppressed the somewhat churning blood within his body. He was unable to obtain a great result with ordinary Do-Chi while fighting opponent with such strength. I can try that technique. Xiao Yang's eyes slightly flickered. He quickly withdrew the aura all around his body. Both of his hands rapidly formed many extremely foreign seals. Little Yi within his body suddenly opened his eyes after Xiao Yang's hands began to move. His body quickly rose and paused between Xiao Yang's brows. The small hands of Little Yi formed the same seals as Xiao Yang at this moment. Xiao Yang, it is really wishful thinking by attempting to defeat this king with your strength. The Northern Dragon King coldly laughed as he watched Xiao Yang form the hand seals. He did not give Xiao Yang any time as the huge sword in his hand mercilessly slashed toward Xiao Yang's head while being accompanied by a sharp wind. Man and flame merger, extermination fire body. The tiny fire lotus in Xiao Yang's eyes had begun to wildly rotate after Xiao Yang and Little Yi's hand seals stilled at the same time. A extermination-like monstrous aura, which caused everyone's expression to pale, suddenly swept from Xiao Yang's body like a storm. After that extermination-like aura swept out of Xiao Yang's body, his body lit on fire at this moment. Pink flames covered every part of his body. His skin, muscles, bones, cells, every part of Xiao Yang's body was filled by a pink flame at this moment. The pink flames fiercely burned. While the flames wildly spread, his body became crystal clear. It was even possible to see his internal organs through the flames. These internal organs were covered by a pink crystal layer at this moment. The green-red wings on Xiao Yang's back slowly morphed. Finally, they turned into a pair of huge pink wings. Looking from a distance, it was as though they had been made by transparent glass, appearing exceptionally mysterious. The extermination fire body was a method of unleashing the energy of the heavenly flame to its limit by merging it with one's physical body. This required almost perfect control of the heavenly flame because the heavenly flames were far too ferocious. Even though it had already been refined, the inside of a human's body was still too weak. No one dared to easily use the heavenly flame to alter one's constitution. Even Xiao Yang did not dare to do so, but after Little Yi appeared, this kind of hidden danger completely vanished. Little Yi and Xiao Yang were mentally connected. They were just like one. Little Yi was the spirit of a heavenly flame. No one in the world could compare with him in terms of controlling a heavenly flame. The harsh conditions required to form the exterminating fire body could also be met by him. This was the first time Xiao Yang had used this skill after leaving the demonic flame realm, but he was confident in the might of the extermination fire body. From a certain point of view, this kind of extermination fire body was just transforming oneself into a movable extermination fire lotus, allowing his attacks to be as terrifying as the fire lotus. However, the only disadvantage was that the Do Chi one required to use the extermination fire body was far too frightening. Even with Xiao Yang's current strength, it was likely that he would not be able to use it for more than a minute. 1 minute would pass in the blink of an eye. However, this 1 minute could decide the victor in a fight when it came to genuine experts. The extermination aura that suddenly rippled out of the formation was detected by many members of the ancient dragon tribe outside. Immediately, many surprised gazes were thrown at Xiao Yang. What a frightening aura! In less than 3 years, his strength has actually progressed to such a level. Elder Zhu Li looked at Xiao Yang with an envious face. When he had first met Xiao Yang, he had still surpassed Xiao Yang slightly. Now, however, he had been tossed into some unknown corner. It looks like our ancient void dragon tribe will be saved. The other elders also revealed joyous faces. Originally, they thought that it was impossible to stop the crazy Northern Dragon King even with Xiao Yang's appearance. However, Xiao Yang caused them to rejoice. Zi Yang, who had been observing the situation in front of everyone, revealed joy in her eyes. The aura that had suddenly erupted from Xiao Yang caused her to feel reassured. Someone who only knows how to put up a mystifying act. No one can change your fate today. The Northern Dragon King narrowed his scarlet eyes as Xiao Yang transformed. He let out a laugh. Although he spoke in a condescending manner, the caution in his heart greatly soared. The current Xiao Yang already made him feel some danger. He would have to pay an extremely miserable price if he was careless. His blood-colored hand quickly formed a seal as he cried out, "Blood Dragon, devour the sky." Roar. The huge blood formation suddenly churned after the Northern Dragon King's cry sounded. An immeasurable amount of bloody Do Chi gathered in the air above the Northern Dragon King. It vaguely formed a savage blood dragon that was larger than the entire Dragon Island. A voice filled with a violent and murderous desire slowly rang out. Bang bang. Many ancient dragon figures exploded within the Dragon Island after the bloody Do Chi gathered. They turned into blood fog that was absorbed into the blood dragon, causing its body to grow a brighter red. On the other side of the blood formation, Cai Lin continued to rapidly throw members of the ancient dragon tribe out of the blood formation. Even though she was quick, many still exploded into a bloody mist. She knit her delicate brows and waved her hand. 10 7-colored lights erupted from her. The rate she was rescuing those individuals soared. The transforming dragon demon formation can be considered the ultimate skill of my ancient dragon tribe. Those pieces of trash actually thought of destroying it. They were really extremely foolish. The madness on the face of the Northern Dragon King became even denser as he stared at the incomparably large blood dragon in the sky. He glanced at Xiao Yang a short distance in front of him. His body rose and finally turned into a blood glow that charged into the huge mouth of the blood dragon. After the Northern Dragon King charged into the blood dragon's body, the luster radiating from all parts of the blood dragon gathered on him. A dim blood light lingered around the surface of his body. Those huge dragon scales flicked with a chilling luster, giving them a lifelike appearance. Roar. The blood dragon's huge eyes contained an endless bloody aura as they focused on Xiao Yang in an icy and merciless fashion. The incomparably large body trembled as it opened its ferocious large mouth. A 10,000-foot large blood glow that contained a bloody aura, which caused one's expression to change, rushed towards Xiao Yang like a furious dragon. Be careful. The bloodlight shot out as Zi Yang warned Xiao Yang. She could sense a frightening force in the bloodlight. If someone were struck by it, even an elite 5-star Do Sheng would likely suffer a serious injury. Ha ha, Xiao Yang, since you have delivered yourself to me, I shall help take your life. The Northern Dragon King's proud roar reverberated across the empty realm as he watched the bloodlight penetrate the void. Xiao Yang's eyes were slowly opened as he faced the Northern Dragon King's roar. Both of his black eyes became crystal clear, but the fire lotus within his body rotated in a terrifying way. Such strength. Xiao Yang lowered his head and swiftly observed his current situation. His pink glass-like face revealed his intoxication. He was currently the purifying demonic lotus flame. If he possessed sufficient Do Qi, Xiao Yang could even unleash the destructive might of the purifying demonic lotus flame. He could burn mountains and boil the sea by just raising his hand. There was no limit to this heavenly flame. Both man and flame had completely merged together. The only person across the entire Do Qi continent who could reach this level was just Xiao Yang. An incomparably searing hot aura was slowly spat from Xiao Yang's mouth. He lifted his head and glanced at the bloodlight rapidly magnifying in his eyes. The corners of his mouth were curled. However, he did not prepare any defenses. The fire wings on his back were gently flapped. After which, he turned into a fire meteorite in front of many shocked eyes. He collided head-on with the bloodlight. They collided at that moment, but everyone's eyes shrunk as the bloody light, which was filled with a frightening bloody energy that could easily defeat a 5-star Do Sheng, quickly dimmed upon contact. Everyone's eyes watched as the light that had penetrated through the void swiftly weakened the moment of the collision. Moreover, it started to slowly deform as it weakened at a shocking speed. A falling star-like figure flashed with lightning-like speed at the same time. The bloodlight collapsed with just a touch when the two made contact. Moreover, it had collapsed without any resistance. Bang! The bloodlight finally became illusory in front of the eyes of the blood dragon, which was filled with disbelief. The firelight figure continued to fly over like a falling star. It was swiftly magnified in his eyes. This king will not fail. Up against Xiao Yang's wild and violent attack, a crazy expression began to surge within the eyes of the blood dragon that the Northern Dragon King had merged with. He was all alone already. If he were to lose, he would no longer find an opportunity to turn things around. Roar! A glaring blood light crazily erupted from the blood dragon's enormous body. It gathered within its large ferocious mouth at a shocking speed. Finally, it turned into a dark 5-foot-large bead condensed from blood. The surface of the bloody bead was covered in lines that appeared like blood vessels. An incomparably bloody scent spread through the empty realm. The blood bead had just appeared when the craziness within the Northern Dragon King's eyes surged. He ruthlessly shot the bead at Xiao Yang in front of him. The blood dragon immediately began to crumble after the blood bead shot away, as though all of its energy had left with the blood bead. Dragon soul bead. This bastard didn't even let off the souls of the tribe members. The eyes of those ancient void dragons outside of the blood formation quickly turned a bloody red after catching sight of the blood-colored bead. The Northern Dragon King had not only devoured the flesh of many from the tribe, he had also not let off their souls. Zi Yang's delicate figure trembled. The murderous desire within her eyes was extremely dense. The Northern Dragon King did not care about the fury of the others. His scarlet eyes continued to stare at Xiao Yang who flying over. Xiao Yang then collided with the blood bead. A cruel and savage smile was immediately lifted on his face. Xiao Yang, go and die. The blood bead whistled through the empty space. Finally, it smashed into Xiao Yang in front of many pairs of eyes. At that moment, everyone's hearts suddenly tightened. No one can hinder this king. The scarlet eyes of the Northern Dragon King stared intently at the point of collision. A wild laugh escaped his mouth, but this laughter had barely started when it was suddenly halted. He was just like a duck whose throat had been broken. Xiao Yang displayed a calm expression that the shocked Northern Dragon King took in with his eyes. A circular lifelike pink fire wave spread from his palm. At the middle of the fire wave was the blood bead, which contained an endless bloody scent, but at this moment, the bloody aura contained in the blood bead swiftly paled as purifying demonic lotus flame purified it. How is this possible? Just which heavenly flame is this? The Northern Dragon King immediately roared out when he saw the blood bead slowly rotating over Xiao Yang's palm. It had not exploded. After the blood bead had landed in Xiao Yang's hands, the Northern Dragon King had sensed that his connection with it had been cut. The purifying demonic lotus flame can purify all things. Even souls can be purified by it. Xiao Yang's pink crystal-like hand slowly rose. A pink flame whistled from it and surrounded the blood bead. The bloody aura in the bead was swiftly being purified. Purifying demonic lotus flame? How can this brat actually possess the purifying demonic lotus flame? The Northern Dragon King suddenly narrowed his eyes. Even though he felt extremely furious in his heart, a chill still surged from it. The reputation of the purifying demonic lotus flame was something that the ancient Void Dragon tribe was familiar with even though they had not traveled to the Central Plains in many years. Xiao Yang ignored the shock of the Northern Dragon King. A flame danced in his hand as he slowly lifted up. A pale pink light ball the size of a human head appeared in his hand. It was the blood ball from earlier. However, the blood aura within it had been completely purified, and Xiao Yan could sense the lingering souls within it. They were the souls of the members of the ancient dragon tribe the Northern Dragon King had devoured. The people inside are begging me to return this to you. Xiao Yan glanced at the Northern Dragon King and smiled. He flicked his finger. The human head-sized pink bead suddenly shot out. This time around, its target was the Northern Dragon King. Bastard! Shock immediately surged onto the Northern Dragon King's face after seeing this bead target him. He turned around and withdrew without uttering anything else. He was too aware of just how terrifying the energy within the dragon bead was. If he was struck by it, he would really be finished this time around. Although the Northern Dragon King pulled back quickly, the pink bead was even faster. Many human faces surfaced on the pink bead as it rapidly flew. They looked at the Northern Dragon King with all the fury they felt. A light flashed and swiftly flew toward the Northern Dragon King. After which, it caught up with the Northern Dragon King in front of many pairs of eyes before exploding in front of his stunned shrunken eyes. Bang! A frightening energy storm wildly swept apart from the point of explosion. Wave after wave of the energy storm scattered over half of the bloody do chi that had filled the dragon island below. Has he won? The members of the ancient void dragon tribe widened their mouths as they stared at the terrifying energy storm. They faced each other. A moment later, a wild joy quickly surged in their eyes. Cheers rebounded across the sky like thunder. Mr. Xiao Yang is extraordinarily strong. He is even able to purify the bloody do chi in the dragon soul bead. Those elders from the eastern dragon island revealed joyous faces from having escaped a calamity. It seemed that the heavens did not intend to eliminate their tribe. The Dragon Emperor's good friend is really a blessing to our ancient dragon tribe. Mr. Xiao Yang has repeatedly rescued our tribe. We will never be able to repay this grand favor. Elder Zhu Li fondled his beard. He immediately glanced at the first elder of the eastern dragon island and the others. Mr. Xiao Yang has indeed blessed our ancient dragon tribe us with a grand favor. The first elder hesitated and nodded after noticing Elder Zhu Li's eyes. He continued in a low voice, I understand your meaning. Once our ancient dragon tribe reunites, our tribe will ally with the Sky Mansion Alliance. Elder Zhu Li only smiled and nodded after hearing this reply. Zi Yang had mentioned forming an alliance with the Sky Mansion Alliance 2 years ago, but there had been many different opinions expressed back then. Hence, a decision had not been reached, but Xiao Yang had once again intervened and rescued them. Given this favor, no one could afford to object again. Zi Yang sighed in relief within her heart after hearing the conversation between Elder Zhu Li and the first elder. These stubborn old fellows were finally willing to abandon their old pride and agree to the alliance, which would significantly benefit both parties. The energy storm, which had originated from the explosion, raged for a moment while everyone's faces were filled with joy. Only then did it slowly disappear. An unusually miserable figure appeared in front of everyone after the storm scattered. The Northern Dragon King is still alive. Many people felt somewhat startled in their hearts when they noticed that the Northern Dragon King was still hanging on to his life by a breath despite appearing extremely miserable with a relatively sluggish aura. Even such a frightening attack could not kill this fellow. This person's life was indeed incomparably strong. The body of an ancient void dragon is indeed strong. Xiao Yang studied this scene. His brow was slightly lifted. He naturally understood that the Northern Dragon King would have already been turned into dust if he had not relied on the strength of his physical body. The Northern Dragon King heavily panted as his dim and scarlet eyes cut at Xiao Yang in an extremely vicious manner. He had never expected to end up being seriously injured by Xiao Yang's hands. Xiao Yang, you better remember this. This king will definitely return and have his revenge. Although he had managed to retain his life, the Northern Dragon King was also extremely weak. He ferociously glared at Xiao Yang as he let out a furious roar. After which, his body suddenly shot backwards. It seemed like he was planning to escape. Do not allow him to escape. Zi Yang immediately became anxious upon realizing he was attempting to flee. She hurriedly cried out. Last time around this fellow had managed to escape and had caused the trouble they were dealing with now. If he were allowed to flee again, the ancient dragon clan would never be at peace. Of course, her reminder was unnecessary. Given Xiao Yang's character, he would naturally not allow a threat to escape. Hence, the fire wings on his back were flapped as soon as the Northern Dragon King moved. He immediately began to chase down the Northern Dragon King with lightning-like speed. You wish to kill this king? In your dreams. The eyes of the Northern Dragon King turned cold after Xiao Yang closed in from behind. He waved his hand and 10 figures flew from the Northern Dragon Island. After which, they thrown toward Xiao Yang like cannonballs. Xiao Yang frowned when he noticed that this Dragon King was attempting to use flesh bombs. The speed he was progressing at slowed. He was preparing to rescue those human figures when 10 7-colored lights suddenly shot from behind him. They whistled and wrapped around the 10 figures before moving them out of the blood formation. Quickly capture that fellow. Cai Lin's voice echoed beside Xiao Yang's ear as she resolved the problem regarding those flesh bombs. Xiao Yang sighed in relief once these obstructions were eliminated. He did not have time to say anything more as the fire wings on his back were flapped. His speed suddenly soared. Within a couple of flashes, he had appeared above the Northern Dragon King's head. A cold laugh appeared as his crystal hand reached for the Northern Dragon King's head at a lightning-like speed in front of the Northern Dragon King's panicked eyes. This king will fight it out with all of you. A ruthlessness filled the Northern Dragon King's heart along with a panic when Xiao Yang was hot on his heels. A seal was formed with both hands before his body began to rapidly. From the looks of it, he was actually planning on self-destructing. It was naturally impossible for Xiao Yang to allow the fight to end by receiving a serious injury at this moment, so an enormous spiritual illusory figure quickly appeared on the surface of his body. The yellow spring divine anger ruthlessly smashed into the Northern Dragon King's body. The powerful spiritual attack caused the Northern Dragon King's soul to feel an intense pain as his swelling body also shrank. The Northern Dragon King's head felt a chill after he forcefully suppressed the intense pain emitted from his soul. Xiao Yang's hand had gently landed on the top of his head. Don't kill me. You win. You win. I will not bother about the matters of the Three Great Dragon Island. In the future, I will no longer be the Northern Dragon King. The body of the Northern Dragon King stiffened when Xiao Yang's hand landed on his head. A hurried cry was emitted from his mouth. Ha, you really change your stance too quickly. Xiao Yang smiled and spoke as he scanned the Northern Dragon King in front of him. Let me go. I will never appear in front of any of you in the future. The Northern Dragon King raised his hands. His scarlet eyes were flickering. Not a bad idea. However, killing you will be easier. Xiao Yang grinned. The next instant, his smile was withdrawn before it turned into a chill that shook one's heart. A hot hidden force swiftly invaded the Northern Dragon King's head, turning the interior into a complete mess. Even though the Northern Dragon King's soul was swiftly vaporized into nothing by the terrifyingly high temperature of the purifying demonic lotus flame, Xiao Yang withdrew his hand while he stood in the emptiness. The body of the Northern Dragon King in front of him slowly collapsed like a pile of mud. Xiao Yang's tightly clenched fist was slowly relaxed, revealing two beads containing a bloody stench. They were both filled with a violent energy. The surroundings were completely quiet. Many pairs of eyes stared at the Northern Dragon King, whose eyes were still wide open and filled with a ruthlessness. All of them sighed. This Northern Dragon King might have been extremely ruthless, but he was still a dignified expert. However, this dignified expert would not be left with a good reputation within the ancestral books of the ancient dragon tribe. Xiao Yang's crystal-clear body gradually paled. He returned to his original form. An ashen expression appeared on his face. After which, he glanced at the Northern Dragon King's body in his hand and lifted his brows with a great interest. This body was not a bad treasure. Ziyang hurried over in a flash while Xiao Yang was holding the corpse of the Northern Dragon King. Her eyes were complicated as she glanced at the Northern Dragon King, whose face still contained a dark, ruthless, and ferocious appearance. She softly sighed. The ancient void dragon had been battered after so many years of internal strife. The disappearance of the Dragon Emperor back then had left the tribe in turmoil, a harrowing problem. 50 to 60% of those from the Northern Dragon Island have already been killed by the Northern Dragon King. This adds to the serious damage our ancient dragon tribe has already suffered. Fortunately, the Western and Southern Islands have not suffered as many losses. This time around, the three great dragon kings have all been killed. No one will be able to stop the tribe from being united. Ziyang glanced at the Dragon Island below, which was still covered in a bloody aura, as she softly analyzed the situation. Xiao Yang slowly nodded. Although the Eastern Dragon Island had been victorious, the price of this victory cost Ziyang far too much. As the Dragon Emperor, she put the needs of the tribe first. Regardless of whether it was the Eastern Dragon Island or the other three Dragon Islands, every person belonged to the ancient Void Dragon tribe. It is ultimately a good beginning. With you, a Dragon Emperor uniting the ancient Dragon clan, it is not impossible for the tribe to regain its glory. Xiao Yang was quiet for a moment. All he could do was attempt to comfort her. He knew that the strength of the ancient Void Dragon tribe was no longer what it had been in the past after experiencing the chaos from the three great Dragon Kings, but he could not damage Ziyang's confidence at this moment. Ziyang softly sighed. She was aware of the differences between the current ancient Void Dragon tribe and the one in the past. It should be known that the ancient Dragon tribe at its peak was comparable to a superfaction like the Jiyu clan, but the experts of her tribe had either died or had scattered. It would be difficult for her to hold it together alone. There was just no telling how long it would take to recover to its peak. Ha, you should not remain depressed. You possess the legendary Dragon Phoenix constitution. As long as you are given sufficient time, you will be able to surpass the previous Dragon Emperors. At that time, recovering the ancient Dragon tribe to its peak will no longer be empty words. Xiao Yang patted Ziyang's head and laughed. Zi Yang smiled upon hearing these words. She braced her attention since Xiao Yan was right. Although the present situation of the ancient dragon tribe was not very good, she still possessed the legendary dragon phoenix bloodline. If she unleashed this bloodline to its limit, she would not be inferior to any dragon emperors. This included her missing father, whom she had never met, the previous dragon emperor. Thank you very much. If the both of you had not hurried over, a smile rose onto Zi Yang's face as she replied with words of thanks. There is no need to say such courteous words to me. Xiao Yang shook his head. Suddenly, he waved the Northern Dragon King's corpse in his hand at Zi Yang and asked, "Can you give this to me?" Huh. Zi Yang was startled upon hearing this question. She was confused and asked, "What do you need his corpse for? This fellow has an unbelievable constitution. He has even been tempered by the transforming dragon demon formation and is now frighteningly strong. If he can be refined into a puppet, it would be an extremely strong one." Xiao Yang hesitated and explained. The sky demon puppets he owned had been left in the star realm as guards. The ingredients that were used to refine them limited the growth of the sky demon puppet to the Dozun class. It was impossible for them to advance any further. A helper of that strength was completely useless to the current Xiao Yang. Hence, he had come up with the idea of refining the Northern Dragon King's corpse into a puppet. After all, the Northern Dragon King had already died and could only be used as trash. According to the rules, strong ancient dragons are normally buried within the dragon tomb. Zi Yang knit her brows and glanced at Xiao Yang's helpless face. However, you have lent a hand to our tribe this time around and it is only right for you to ask for a reward. Currently, those from the tribe hate this person. If I were to really bring him back, I don't think he would be allowed to be buried in the dragon tomb. You can take his body if you have a need for it. Ha ha, in that case, I will thank your majesty, the dragon emperor. Xiao Yang smiled and replied after listening to this girl's official response. Zi Yang laughed in a delicate voice. The both of you should rest on the eastern dragon island for now. The 3 great dragon kings have already been killed. I will need to start the preparations for reorganizing the 4 great dragon islands. Xiao Yang smiled and nodded. There was still something he needed to do within this empty realm. In any case, he had no pressing matters at this moment. He would refine this puppet before leaving. In the future, the puppet would be a good helper when he fought against others. Zi Yang chatted with Xiao Yang for a moment after he nodded. After which, she organized the experts within the tribe and then entered the Northern Dragon Island after the bloody Do Chi scattered. They were going to find the tribe members who had luckily survived. After the 3 great dragon kings were killed, the ancient Void Dragon tribe, which had been dealing with serious internal strife, finally cleared all obstacles. The 4 great dragon islands ceased voicing any objections because of Zi Yang's title as the Dragon Emperor. The Northern Dragon King had slaughtered the members of the tribe and had chilled the hearts of all the ancient Void Dragons. Naturally, no one was furious over his death. The Western and Southern Dragon Kings had both perished to the hands of the Northern Dragon King. This news would undoubtedly make the Northern Dragon King more hated. With the urging from so many factors, the unification of the 4 great dragon islands was unexpectedly smooth. The 4 great dragon islands that floated in the empty realm were merged together with the help of the combined might of many of the tribe experts. From this moment on, the ancient Void Dragon tribe could finally be considered reunified. In the future, there would no longer be 4 great dragon islands. There would only be 1 ancient dragon island. While the ancient Void Dragon tribe was extremely busy with the unification process, Xiao Yang and Cai Lin chose to remain on the dragon island. Xiao Yang rested for a couple of days and returned to his peak condition. This time around, the aim of his retreat was to refine a puppet using the body of the Northern Dragon King. The strength of the Northern Dragon King when he was alive had almost reached the 6th star of the Dosheng class. Xiao Yang had become excited because the physical body of this king was many times stronger than an ordinary 6-star Dosheng. This body was the best material to refine a puppet with. If it could be successfully refined, it would undoubtedly be a great help to Xiao Yang. This puppet would be extremely important to both him and the Sky Mansion Alliance. Xiao Yang's expression was solemn as he stood in a chamber. The air in front of him contained hundreds of objects that were flickering with mysterious glows. These glowing objects were the ingredients needed to refine a puppet. A top-quality body like the Northern Dragon King was extremely rare, so Xiao Yang naturally needed to use the best ingredients in order to refine this body. Xiao Yang's eyes carefully swept over those ingredients in front of him. He verified that everything was present before nodding with satisfaction. He had rummaged through the stores of the Dragon Island in order to collect these ingredients. Just thinking of the pained eyes of the warehouse-guarding elder caused Xiao Yang to involuntarily laugh out loud. Xiao Yang only waved his hand after completing his check. A figure, which was many times stronger than an ordinary person, floated in front of him. This was the main ingredient required to refine the puppet, the body of the Northern Dragon King. The current Northern Dragon King's eyes were both tightly shut. His expression was pale and void of life. However, His body was still tense. It was impossible to leave behind a scar even if one hacked at it with a knife. The physical body of this Dragon King had already been strengthened to a frightening level. At the very least, Xiao Yang admitted he was no match for it. The ancient Void Dragon tribe was indeed blessed by a strong physical body. Xiao Yang swept his eyes over the Northern Dragon King's head. Those three faces still appeared a little ferocious at this moment. He involuntarily shook his head. The reason this person's physical body was so strong was because he had devoured the Western and Southern Dragon King's blood and flesh. Xiao Yang widened his mouth after withdrawing his gaze. A cluster of pink flames was spat out of his mouth, after which, they swelled with the wind and turned into a huge furnace in the air. Subsequently, he waved his hand and threw the body of the Northern Dragon King into the furnace. The skin of the Northern Dragon King erupted with a sizzling sound the moment the Northern Dragon King's body entered the fire cauldron. Strands of blood continued to flow out before vanishing into nothing because of the high temperature. Xiao Yang was expressionless as this blood disappeared. He had refined a puppet in the past and naturally understood that this was a tempering process. After being refined by his heavenly flame, the body of the Northern Dragon King would become even more terrifying. This tempering process might appear simple, but it lasted for a total of 10 days. Xiao Yang did not rest during this period as he continued to use the purifying demonic lotus flame to grill the Northern Dragon King's body. After 10 days of grilling, the originally strong body of the Northern Dragon King seemed to have shrunk by 3 layers. Even though his body had shrank, it still appeared a little stronger than an ordinary person. Xiao Yang calmly studied the Northern Dragon King's body, which seemed like black metal, from outside of the cauldron. Even though no do qi surrounded it, the body's glaring appearance was still incomparable. The blood within the body had been grilled until it has entered all the muscles and bones. This body will really be a perfect killing machine. Xiao Yang smiled as he examined the black body, which radiated a pressure. He smiled and even his black eyes contained a strange smile. He immediately waved his hand and the purifying demonic lotus flame that had been wrapped around the body slowly paled. Bang! The moment that the purifying demonic lotus flame completely vanished, the Northern Dragon King suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes within the fire cauldron. A familiar pair of scarlet eyes belonging to the Northern Dragon King appeared and a strange sinister laugh followed. Xiao Yang, thank you for helping this king complete this temperament. In order to thank you, I shall show you just how frightening this body is. TSK, if you need someone to blame it on your arrogance in merely scattering this king's soul. Our ancient void dragon's body is our soul and our soul is our body. The strong body that was covered in a black metal-like luster within the fire cauldron wildly laughed at the sky. A punch was thrown forward and caused the fire cauldron to collapse. His large hand reached for Xiao Yang. The dead Northern Dragon King was revived. This video will end here.